Hi everybody, it's City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. Today I am going to be working on the August Stretch the Sketch. For this month's Stretch the Sketch, I'm stretching this sketch that's in the upper left-hand corner into a two-page layout. I really liked this sketch as soon as I looked at it, and I felt that it really lended itself to making a two-page layout. So I decided to take these photos that I have been trying to scrapbook for a very, very long time and use them for this project. I took four 4x6 inch photos and I trimmed them down just a little bit. Instead of being 4 inches wide, now they're about 3.5 inches wide, but I left them 6 inches tall. And I'm going to be using these papers. I had shown at the beginning a couple of the papers I was considering using, and I decided that for those vertical strips, I would use alternating orange and purple, and then I would use this dot for the piece that extends to the edge of the page. I'm going to arrange my photos. I was thinking that I wanted to alternate the photos that looked more bright yellow with the ones that looked a little bit more muted. These photos were taken in Salem, Massachusetts. My family goes there often at Halloween time. Even though these photos are not really of something that has to do with Halloween, since it's in an album in which every other page has a Halloween theme, I finally decided I was just going to carry that theme throughout this layout as well. So we were in a museum called the Peabody Essex Museum. There was this really cool, I guess it was a glass cube. There was light shining from inside, and the entire room was lit up with these really, really cool patterns. It's kind of a relief to have finally decided how to approach scrapbooking these photos. And I have some other photos from the same museum, and I'm going to do the same thing, just carry this Halloween theme through the entire album. The papers that I'm using, I forgot to mention, are Authentique brand. Over the years, I've saved up some different papers, so these are from all different collections, but all of the Authentique Halloween collections seem to go together really well. I used ATG adhesive to attach all of the papers down to those two black background sheets, and now I'm using the ATG adhesive to attach the photos down to the papers. Now I'm using my good old Creative Memories circle cutters, and I'm cutting out a circle for the circular element that's on the top left-hand side of the page. I cut out a piece of black to back this smaller circle. And because the circle is divided in half, I was trying to decide what I wanted to put for the lower part of the circle. So at first I was thinking that this paper might look nice. So I cut it down to size. And then when I fit it in there, I don't know, I just wasn't super happy with it. So then I started looking for a different paper to put underneath, but I thought in the meantime that I would just attach this down. I liked the black and white paper, but I just felt that I wanted to put something there that had a little bit more color, since that wood grain was mainly black and white and shades of gray. So then I tried out this orange paper, and I thought that looked a lot better. So I inked the edges of the orange paper, and then I realized I had not inked the edges of the wood grain paper, so I went ahead and did that. Of course, I got a little smear off to the right, but that's okay. It ends up getting covered up anyway. And I'm happy with the orange paper, so I also attached that down to the page. I want to start adding some details to the circle. So I found this little border strip. I had definitely used it for some other project, and just this little scrap remained, but I thought that it fit on there just perfectly. Since the room we were in, and of course the photos are filled with shadows, I wanted to incorporate the word shadow into the title, and I looked around online quite a bit and finally decided that I would just go with me and my shadow. So for me and my, I'm using some smaller letters. These are some Fun Stampers Journey letters. They're a puffy letter, and I'm also using some orange glitter thickers. As I was adding the word shadow to the circle, I realized that there was just enough room to have the smaller letters going along the curve of the circle and add the word shadow underneath. There was plenty of room for the word shadow, but just getting everything on there was getting a little tight, but I think it all worked out in the end. Once I have all the letters in place, I go back in with some glue and I reinforce both the puffy stickers and the thickers. I have run out of my regular glue, so I just used something that I had on hand. It's Aleen's Clear Gel Tacky Glue, and it seems to be working out really well. It's not an expensive glue, and it does dry nice and clear. Now that I have the title in place, I'm going to be adding some embellishments. You could see on the sketch that there are some butterflies on either side of the layout, so I decided to do the same thing, but since we were in Salem, with some bats. And I've had these in my stash for a long time. These are, I think, me and my big ideas. And they're just some glitter bats in all different shapes. And I'm hoping to find some more bats in my Halloween shopping this year. I use a lot of bats because I do scrapbook this subject of going to Salem often. And I buy bats whenever I see them, but I've kind of run through my stash, so I was glad to have these for this layout. I also had a few that I punched that were in a little bag in with my stash, so I decided that these would be a good addition to the layout to have the bats in different sizes. Some look like they're in the foreground and the little ones kind of fade into the background, but I think they still add something. There are at least 2 different sizes of those little small bats that I'm sprinkling around right now. Some are extremely small and some are just kind of small. I wanted to add a little something next to the title the way there is in the sketch, so I started picking out some other elements that I could add. I have an owl and a few little tickets. There's that black arrow that was another thing that was kind of a discard from another layout that I didn't end up using. And then there's also this moon, and I thought that this moon would go nicely around the circle. It would just kind of complement the shape of the circle. So I add some foam to the back and add some ATG adhesive and fit that right in there. And then, not to ignore the bottom half of the circle, I just found a few more little ephemera bits. I think these are mainly Tim Holtz ephemera. And I just layer them up just to have a little something down there. I don't want to have too many different points on the layout that draw your attention. I was thinking of putting some other things under the photos, some other images. I had some insects, but I finally decided that I didn't want to take away from the kind of swarm of bats that was on either side of the layout. So I decided to leave it a little more plain than usual and just keep all of my embellishments in those few different clusters. And now I'm gluing down all those bats. The tiny bats, those are just punched from some glitter paper, so of course those need glue. And I'm also adding some glue to the chipboard bats, even though they're stickers. It's the same thing as with the thickers. Very rarely do I get chipboard anything that really sticks down well, so a little bit of extra glue is definitely a good idea, I think. And now I'm inking the edges of all those items that I had placed down, and I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive on the back and attach them down to the layout. At first I wasn't sure if I should also include an owl, since this is kind of a bat themed layout, but I liked the way that owl was all orange and just kind of fit in with the background papers. And then I wasn't sure if I should add this bat because it's different than all the other bats, but it went along with everything in that cluster. And I liked the overall look of the cluster, so I went ahead and attached everything down. On the right there, I felt there was a little gap, so I found another bat. It looks a little different from the other bats. Not sure where I got it from, but it fit right in there. Then I used a black magic marker to cover up a little white spot on that one bat's wing. And even though I didn't want to put a whole bunch of different types of images, I still wanted to add a little something extra to the layout. I felt it looked a little too plain, so I found a couple of border strips. The one on the top was a complete strip. The borders on the bottom were already in pieces. I'm sure I tried using them on a different layout and it didn't work out, so I just cut them down to the size that I needed and tucked them under the photo, or under the photos. I feel like you don't really see borders the way you used to. This was a very common scrapbooking staple years ago, and I really like these particular borders. I'm not sure if you could tell, but they are acetate borders, and I just like the look that they give to the layout. And I feel kind of sad I don't have any more of these. I really got a lot of use out of this border pack. I cut the excess off of that border strip, and then I decided to move a bat over a little bit to the left and add another little bat underneath that large bat, and then I added a couple more on the left side going right into the background paper. I just wanted to make sure that both sides looked like a swarm of bats. So I figured I couldn't go wrong with adding just a couple more. They were so tiny. These glitter dots that I'm adding now, these are another really old item that I got from Michaels many years ago, their Recollections brand. And they came in a pack with 2 different colors of purple and white. They're just little self-adhesive glitter dots. So I'm peeling the adhesive back off of them, but I'm using some glue because sticking things down to acetate can be a little rough, so I just want to make sure they stayed stuck down. The next day I was looking at the layout and I decided I wanted to add some bling. And as I was looking through my yellow and orange jewels, I found that I had these really super tiny jewels, and these are Bow Bunny brand. So I thought that these would be cute to use as eyes on the larger bats. So I'm cutting this little strip of jewels. It's one of those strips that you could use as a border on something. I'm cutting it into individual jewels and I'm gluing them down to all of the bats. I start on the left side and then I off camera completed all of the eyes on the right side. I'm reinforcing a lot of things that are supposed to be self-adhesive with glue on this layout, but I find that embellishments have a little bit of trouble sticking to things like glitter and acetate, and then of course reinforcing thickers is something that I do on a regular basis. I added a couple of jewels between the words, and then I added a couple down to that cluster that's underneath the title. Just a few. Just wanted to add a little touch of bling there. And that completes this month's Stretch the Sketch. Here are some close-ups. You'll be seeing a lot of bats in these close-ups. Please take a look in the description box and you can hop along with all the other ladies who are participating in this month's Stretch the Sketch. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up. I hope that everybody has a fantastic day and a great weekend, and I hope to see everybody again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.